Welcome back to The Biggest Talk. We break down some of the most influential bestsellers of our time and read them so you don't have to. We're your hosts,
Ira.
Sebastian.
and Harrison.
For today's video, we are going to be going over rules 7 through 9 of Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
For life.
And the first rule for today: pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
Well, I think what we first need to address is what is meaningful and what is expedient. I feel like these things are such subjective kinds of descriptions that you can put on anything.
Yeah, but a better way to define it would be instant gratification versus delayed gratification, right? But also delayed gratification is kind of not clear because you also have to understand that it's not always 100% that it's going to be gratifying. You kind of invest in that hoping that it's going to be like that.
So it's kind of like investing in something now and hoping that it will
The return is greater.
turn into something greater in the future rather than just getting something
Right
right,
away,
now,
yeah.
right here, right
It's
now.
hard to know nowadays because a lot of our generation goes very much for what is expedient and can get instant gratification because it's very easily within reach for all of us nowadays.
That's true. I'd much rather watch a YouTube video and learn how to do something than go to class.
Yeah.
Three days a week, unfortunately, right?
Yeah, especially for like simpler classes too. Like for math, of course, you kind of have to pursue schooling for that. But, you know, if you kind of want to learn simple like mechanic tricks, like fixing your car or whatever, you don't need to waste money somewhere else when YouTube is such a utility for that.
Right. I mean, you can even think about it like the whole journey of going to school. You almost see it as something more than just the education. You go to school, you meet people, you meet professors, you meet different individuals that may or may not help you in your road of life, and that could also, contribute to what he's talking about in terms of like not expedient and
Yeah.
pursuing what is
Yeah.
meaningful. But a lot of examples that I see our generation facing a lot is like how they differentiate relationships, because I feel like instant gratification in terms of just dating and having one night stands or
Yeah.
just having sex just so open and a comfortable topic for a lot of people. I feel like it's really changed the aspect of what do I have to work towards and what can I get today with no consequence.
Yeah, and also what is sacred, right? Because these ideas have
Right.
been challenged just more recently, like in the past 50 years or so.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Just with like the spawn of birth control and all these conceptual restrictions, I guess.
Right, making it definitely easier to talk about, not only talk about but to participate in. Right, I mean nowadays we have people who tattoo everything, anywhere, everything on their face, whether
Yeah.
it be. But back then tattooing was such a huge taboo. Right?
Yeah, and now there's less risk for those things, right? Like
definitely
you said, like
with modern
having-
medicine.
yeah,
Right, it's just enabled us
more instant gratification.
Right, but also at the same time, instant gratification is the individual's choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When just because we have birth control, just because we have condoms, right, doesn't mean that you should or should be encouraged to be sleeping with more people, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion.
Yeah, of course, but being a human, you kind of push the boundaries of risk,
Mm-hmm.
and when that risk has been drastically reduced, it's a lot easier to identify. Oh, there's not a risk for this if
Mm-hmm.
if I've done it however many times, right?
Definitely. So I guess the opposite of that would just be, having a relationship and investing yourself in another person, whether it be emotionally or physically or spiritually, just growing that relationship rather than just having a one night, I guess.
Yeah, like feeling good for
Going
30 seconds,
Yeah.
pump and
Going-
dump.
going over what Sebastian was talking about, how with a lot of the things nowadays in like modern medicine is that there is a lot less risk,
Mm-hmm.
so that people don't see what would happen, what would be the benefits of the long term, rather than what they can do right instantly. Then
Yeah.
with instant gratification, that's all they see. That's all they're focused on. They don't take time to take a step back and look over everything, all their options.
Well,
Definitely.
I think that's kind of why the masses, are usually trying to find more out of life, is because they haven't tasted that long-term result. Only the people that have tried it, right? And they realize, wow, it's definitely worth it. They keep doing it. So it's kind of it increases the polarization of that gap, right?
Right, definitely. I mean, people are really struggling to try new things
Mm-hmm.
nowadays because I feel like the idea of failure is so rampant within our lives, because not only is it easier to pursue something, it's a lot easier to fail as
Yeah.
well, right? And then I feel like when you see, like you're talking about, with so much success in one area, it really pushes our focus and it like narrows our focus into thinking, no risk, everyone else is doing it, right? It's okay, I can do it too, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There-
Right. but there's definitely always a trade-off in terms of what you're putting in and what you're getting out.
Yeah.
The thing with nowadays is that like a lot of kids are sheltered.
Sheltered.
They're scared of the failure that would come with the long term investments.
You know what? Not only so much sheltered. I just feel like the kids nowadays, well, even my generation, even my peers, really, they've just grown to be softer. You know,
Yeah.
they've grown to really feel and believe that what they feel is what it
Is
really
the truth.
should be, right?
It's the
and,
truth.
and there's a very fine line, or there's a very thick line, I guess, between truth or facts and feelings, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that I thought about recently is like these bigger social problems with society that people debate that are really polarized, like birth control, right? Like, are abortions okay, right? Like, you're either for it or you're against it. There's no kind of like somewhat solution. It's kind of just people are on one side or the other. And Jordan Peterson talks about this, like when he speaks a lot, is that like if you're at that point, you're really asking the wrong question. There's a series of questions before that that you have to address first to kind of come to a better solution, because there's a reason there's not a clear-cut solution to like gun control laws, because it's not an easy thing to solve. So when people like spew their
Definitely.
opinion thinking it's truth, that when they've done like 10 minutes of research, right, it's not that easy, or else it would have been solved a long time ago.
Right.
So
Definitely. Completely agree with that.
yeah.
So really, like when you really look at things, you really have to think about it twice, maybe three
Yeah.
times. Because for me, I don't know about you guys personally, but 9 out of 10 times, I wish that I would have analyzed something that I did a little bit longer before
Yeah.
I did it. Because I feel like when we have that comfortability in doing what we want to do, we take unnecessary risks, right?
Yeah.
Not so much just risks.
Yeah. The going back to what I was saying with how they've been sheltered, that part of them being sheltered is that they've been taught to always take the safe route and to avoid failure, you know? So they start to see the instant gratifications that are provided for them as safe routes.
I mean, think of
In
school,
which-
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
School teaches you to go to school, you know, high school 5 days a week, and then you are supposed to get something out of it. Same thing at a job. You go to your job 5 days a week and you get paid at the end of 2 weeks, right? And it really teaches you to follow directions. It teaches you to do what you're told, listen to what your superior is saying to you. It doesn't really teach you free thought. It doesn't push you towards any other thinking.
Yeah, but this idea of like fear of failure that he's kind of talking about, how people are sheltered and they're afraid of failure. This is kind of a double-edged sword to me, because the school system, you know, it teaches you to fear failure, but is that a bad thing, right? Because
No.
you have to understand that failure has consequences, but also you
Has-
can't be afraid of it, right?
You
So-
can't. That's what the faulty is with having fear of failure, because failure does have.
It happens.
It happens, you know, one way or another, you know.
Yes.
But just because it's a failure doesn't mean that you don't benefit somehow. You
Definitely.
know,
Yes.
failure is a process in which a person can learn and can change themselves
Yes. So
to better avoid it
understanding
next
that
time.
that there's consequences, but you also have to grow from that instead of fearing those consequences. That's kind of the hard part that school doesn't really teach, right? You just kind of you get an F on a test and you're like, oh, I gotta hide this from my parents, right?
Right.
So it's a difficult kind of way
Yeah,
to
I
solve
definitely
that. I don't
get
know how
that.
the school system could really solve that,
Right. But I also think, like, you know, whether or not you have to hide something from your parents, I think it's a great segue to his next law of to tell the truth or at least don't lie.
that's right.
Right? I mean, like, if I get an F, I mean, I'm not telling the truth or lying. I'm just not saying anything.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson talks a lot about how the only way to make a better society is just if people told the truth. Because when you speak the truth, then it solves a lot of problems, right? Because when you hide things, it just creates more problems for you.
But what's the truth? Your truth is not my truth.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right.
like when you're telling a lie, right? You clearly
Definitely.
tell a lie, right?
Definitely.
Like you said, if you hide an F, that creates a plethora of problems for you,
Yeah.
because now you have to go through with that lie all the way till the end.
Mm-hmm.
But he believes that telling the truth means whatever happens was the best possible thing that could have happened.
Yeah. In every successful story you hear, there is always, well, when there's a situation where it involves a team of people working together and this team has created success for themselves, they don't lie. There is communication between the team, which is very essential, and you can't have good communication over what's going on with your team if one is lying to the other, you
Yeah,
know?
like you said, you don't want friends that just tell you, boost
don't-
your morale
Yeah,
or
you don't
boost your
want
ego
just
all the
yes
time.
man. You want people
exactly.
to tell you the truth. You want them to communicate with you.
Yeah, 'cause that's how you grow.
And I think a good flow of thought and just honest thought is always the best way to go, in my opinion. Whenever I go to my family and I talk to them about something, if they think I have a stupid idea, they're gonna tell me I have a
Yeah.
stupid idea, and I think that's great.
Yeah, I also think that he's not saying that this is an easy thing to do.
Definitely.
Even the little white lies, he goes on on a couple of personal examples and how it's a really difficult thing. Like he talks about when he was handling with a disabled person. I don't remember exactly what the disability was, and how he could have told him some white lie to make him feel better, but he didn't. He kind of told him the truth in a way that didn't hurt them too bad, and then everything was fine. And that kind of made him realize that telling the truth is the best way.
And I feel like when our society pushes like the politeness, so much like politically correctness,
Yeah.
like, oh, you've decided to be this and use these kinds of pronouns, or this is what you've decided to be, or oh, this is what I need to call you. I feel like the politeness in our society has really forced us to step back from this specifically of the truth, because all of a sudden the truth is now skewed
Yes.
within our society, and we're very far from paradise, in my opinion.
It all goes back to sheltering again. Nobody wants to get hurt. But
Right.
that's just how life is.
And I feel like when you talk about sheltering, it can be fixed by telling people the truth. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you cover up. There is death in this world. There is sickness, right? There is pestilence. I mean, it's just never gonna end.
Mhm.
Famine, anywhere you go. Well, not anywhere you go, but it exists. Okay.
Yeah.
And telling someone that it doesn't, or hiding them from it, or anything like that, doesn't really help them at all. Versus the other
Yeah.
side of things, right?
Like, if I were to go, you guys have been starting to do some investments in stocks, right? And it's like I come to you guys and then be like, I'm all excited because I want to get into it too. And then it's like I tell you I'm going to invest in one, and you guys see this one's going down. You could
No, go
you
do it,
could-
bro.
Say later.
you could just be like, oh yeah, good for you, yeah, do it, But then in the end, I'm gonna end up losing money. So
Right.
you guys have, in that situation, if you lied to me, it would have cost me more than you sheltering me at the beginning, Whereas if
What-
you had told me don't do that, that's a dumb thing to do,
Right.
Yes,
It
but you
would've
wouldn't have known why it was a dumb thing until
Right.
you lost the money. So, like we said, it's a give and take. But I kind of want to throw a question out there. Like, what do you think kind of spawned this ultra sensitive society? Because is it really the fear of failure that has become just so prevalent?
You know what? I think people have a fear of people. As like
I
weirdly
can agree with that. Yeah.
as that sounds, I feel like people are afraid of other people.
Well, more so than before, right?
Right. And in a sense that, like, for me, crazy is always going to be alive and well and thriving in this world. Doesn't matter who it is, okay, or whether it's your family member, your friend, or a stranger. Nowadays it's kind of like you see so many school shootings that happen. Okay, and
yeah.
like these things are completely new to our 21st century. It's just starting to happen. These things are becoming a trend, right? And I feel like people are afraid of other people too. So to not upset other people, they feel like they need to, in a way, feed their lie and make them happy, so that appeasement. That is what I'm looking for. Is it's like our society has gotten into a appeasement mode.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're complaining, then we're just gonna give you this, and then so you stop, and then you just go away, because I feel like inherently they're afraid of other people.
But then, what do you think spawns like all these shootings?
I'm not sure about the shootings, but where it comes to the sheltering and everything, I feel like it comes from how it comes from the first rule: stand up with your
Stand up
shoulders
straight with your shoulders back, yeah.
Stand up straight with your shoulders back, which we talked about in one of our other videos. He talks about how once it becomes a trend for people when they start to win, they stay up, they get cockier, and then they become like this alpha. Whereas people who tend to lose, they tend
Keep
to
losing.
lose, and then they're sad, they're depressed.
And they're beta.
Yeah, and then they're a beta, and I feel like that's where the sheltering comes from, because people, it's based off of
It's like having participation.
It's based off good intentions, but in the end, it's not really a beneficial, which is where I sort of disagree to the point where it's like once a person loses, they're always stuck in that track. Personally,
Right.
for me, I feel like it's up to the person to decide how that track leads for themselves.
Definitely, you can't
know?
let it define
They-
you. Of
yeah,
course.
they're going down. They got to change what they're doing to make
Yeah.
themselves.
I mean, it's just
be
like
better.
giving someone a participation ribbon for running a race. Like, yeah, you didn't win, but here's a prize. And I feel like that really softens one kid's up, and it makes them believe that even though that they tried, oh, they get something, right? That
Yeah.
there's some sort of reward for accomplishing nothing.
Which is weird because that's kind of the opposite of what we're talking about. Of how, people fear failure, but we're not even failing people. We're just, rewarding them for bad play. So, and it still spawned this super sensitive society. So it's kind of
Right. I think when people mature from the age of getting participation ribbons,
Yeah.
and they get to the real world, and then they get
they expect.
corrected by the market,
Yeah.
they start to realize that everything that they've learned or they've been taught is wrong. I mean, I'm sorry if you're 5 minutes late to work, but I'm gonna hire the other guy that's on time every day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you might be 5 minutes late. It might not matter in the long run, but in a month you're missing an hour of work, and then in 6 months you're missing a day, and then in a year you're missing 2 days of work. I mean, the math just kind of, people don't take their actions seriously enough, in my opinion, that it translates to them really producing something, in terms of they feel like anything that they feel should be validated just because they feel it.
I think you're right about how giving them participation medals and all this kind of ideology at a young age, when they grow up to an age where they have to face real consequences, their foundation is this. So they're
Right.
not going to take that. They're
Right.
not going to believe it because their whole life is predicated on this.
All right, I mean, think about it. No kid wants to lose, right?
Yeah.
And then every kid in their heart still wants to win. Although the race is over, you've run your run. The medals are being handed out, but you're not on the pedestal. The kid still wants to win at heart. So what do? You give them a participation medal, and then you appease them, and then they're a little bit happier.
Yeah.
Right, but it doesn't really accomplish anything.
No, it totally destroys everything.
Yeah,
Quite
because
the opposite.
the failure is what tells them, you need to go back and you just need to practice more.
Yeah, it tells them you're not. Sometimes you're not going to be right.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail, and you have to just be able to deal with that and then run the next race.
I guess in a way, the parents or supervisors, whoever it is handing out participation medals, is quelling that fear for the kid, right?
Sure.
Because if the kid doesn't understand, okay, fear of failure or success, they just want to win.
Yeah.
Success is their only, like, if you look at the kid, they only want to eat, sleep, play, and win,
Yeah.
right? No kid wants to go out there and just be picked on and be the loser.
Yeah.
Right. So in a way, these people can artificially introduce something like a stimuli into their life.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden they become dependent on this. It's just like how people get hooked on cigarettes.
Yeah.
Right. They become dependent on this half win, not lose. Right.
Yeah, because it becomes subconscious because they're so young, and that's how they just interpret it. And
Definitely.
then, like we said, when they get older, they can't really deal with it, so then they fall back on,
You
well,
know-
maybe I shouldn't be losing, right? Not,
Yeah.
maybe I was born on lies.
So amidst talking about, so many strong opinions, I think we should move on to his next point
Yep.
of assuming that the person you're listening to might know something you don't.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty self-evident as well. But I think a lot of us don't like to take this one seriously enough because it's really easy to see somebody around you and you know the sucker in the room, right?
Right.
But they still have something to offer.
Yeah. I
For-
have
Yeah, go ahead.
a little story about this. My uncle was at the gym one time, and he sees a couple guys, about our age, like 18 or 19, doing deadlifts on the rack, right? And then they're over there, they're pulling like 250 or something, and they're struggling. They're going up slow, and then their back's not in the right position, and so they could end up hurting themselves. So my uncle goes over there to try and show them the right way, the right form in which that they should be lifting, right?
Yeah.
But they don't give him the time of day, because they just see a 65-year-old man, But little do they know that this 65-year-old man back in his prime time was an Olympic weightlifter who at 130 pounds was lifting over 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Easy weight.
Yeah, and not even that, just the fact that, they could hurt themselves, but they just
Right.
don't care because their ego is too big.
They're arrogant.
They think, oh, this old guy, what does he have to offer,
Yeah.
they fail to see the person might know something that they don't.
And that all stems from ego, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you wouldn't listen to somebody is because you think you know better.
Right. And I think, one rule of thumb everybody should have and practice is like, even though someone is talking to you and you know that 99% of what they say is just complete and utter BS.
Yeah, you have those conversations.
As long as you can take away 1%, I think that conversation is worth having, in my opinion.
100%, yeah.
Because you're never going to stop learning in this lifetime, and you really don't know what the person next to you has to offer. I mean, I have 10 years of experience. Sebastian has 10 years of experience that I've never even tapped into. Ira has the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So there's no way for me to know your entire 10 years of experience. If I know 95% of your 10 years, because we've gone to middle school together, we've gone to high school together, right? There's going to be things that are behind closed doors that I don't know, that you don't know about me, right? That if I don't give you the chance to even tell me about it, I'm never going to learn in the first place.
Yeah. I think another part of this rule is kind of just to listen, instead of talking, running your mouth all the time, just to really listen to what people are saying, right? Like, even you have those conversations where, the person is totally ignorant about whatever they're talking about and you can't believe a word they say, but maybe you pick something up somehow, maybe something about how those kind of people like to talk about themselves or whatever, right? It doesn't have to be about what they're saying.
Right.
But just really learn to take anything away from it.
Right. I mean, and then you hear people talk about like Fox News and CNN. They're like, oh, I don't even watch Fox News, or I don't even watch CNN. I mean, I strongly recommend you guys to watch both channels.
Yeah.
Not only one. Of course, you're free to have your own political opinion, your political bias, whatever you want. But I think it's good that you are always at least exposing yourself to both sides of the story before you draw a conclusion yourself or adopting someone else's conclusion about something.
Yeah, my grandparents watch MSNBC every night, and so you could walk in there already knowing exactly what they're going to be saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me personally, I would like to get information from many sources, not just two, right? As many sources as you can to really identify the truth, because like Jordan Peterson says, that's ultimately what's going to bring paradise.
But do you know what's interesting? How we were talking about school earlier, about how it teaches you kind of a linear, go to school, go to work, right?
Yeah.
Every week. In school, when you're writing papers, you're kind of taught to look for as many sources as possible to be credible.
Yeah.
Right? But then you realize as you get older, I don't know if it's laziness or arrogance or, you just feel the age getting to you. All of a sudden you're more supreme because you're 19 now than 18 last year. But like we're talking about right now, people only watch one news source.
Yeah.
And then you see that there's, like, why do you think it's not being consistently
why is it not
reflected?
agreed upon?
Right.
Because there's a reason why things aren't agreed upon.
What do you think that is, though?
Like I said, difficult problems aren't going to be solved from 10 minutes of analysis. And I think the people that talk the loudest are the people that do that 10 minutes of analysis.
Yeah.
And the people that are the quietest are the ones with their head down trying to really figure out a solution. And at that point, those people, the people that talk the loudest influence the masses. So that kind of puts you in a tough spot.
Because a lot of the masses are very one-minded. They don't explore all the options and look at all of the sources, Once they get that one news channel which they feel and they trust,
that feeds their ego, maybe.
It's the one. I feel like people really feed into what they agree with. Right?
Yeah, exactly. They have one point in which they agree with it, so they start to find the similarities between them and the channel, and so they stick with that channel and they assume that everything that the channel says is correct, because they have the same feelings. So what the channel says
it becomes an echo chamber.
Right. I mean, definitely like selective hearing. They only hear what they want to hear. I mean, you can sit there and talk to someone for until your face goes blue, but if you don't say one thing that they're listening for, they're not gonna hear you.
That goes back to what we said. You need to learn to listen better.
Right.
Ultimately.
Right. And I think listening is so important in any kind of relationship, because when you're in a relationship, I hate to break it to you guys, but in this world, there's more than one person other than you, right? So whether it be in a school relationship, a personal relationship, a friend relationship, it's always a two-way street.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's an abusive relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good place to end it, though.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys liked anything that you guys heard, please leave a like on a video. It really helps us know that we're doing our best and keeps encouraging us. So if you really like us, subscribe. We love to see you, more and more on our videos. If you have anything else to share, maybe we missed something or you disagree with something, just leave a comment in the comment section down below.
Yeah, we touched a lot of sensitive topics. So if you disagree with anything, feel free to leave your response and what you think. So until then, let's go out
And get this bread.